Ladies and gents, and welcome to RPTV. I'm Mr. Kock, and I'm joined with the beautiful Miss Tammy Paxton tonight. And we have a special for you. Tonight with us is Kate Hutchinson.
Hey, hey. Oh, can I hear you?
Good evening.
I can hear you. There we go.
Fantastic, dear.
Oh, God. How are we all?
Fabulous, darling. Looking fab this evening there. I'm living a little barrel kills you've got going in there. Beautiful.
I know. New hair. Fantastic.
So on behalf of Rhondda Pride, Kate, we would like to welcome you. And yeah, I was wondering, how are you finding lockdown? And are you drinking anything with us tonight? So I have the lovely rum and Coke.
I'm on a pink gin here. Hey!
Sorry, I'm letting the side down. I'm on water.
That's all right, dear. A drink's a drink.
Yeah, I've done enough of it though on lockdown. You're talking about, you know, how am I dealing with lockdown? I think at the start I probably did have a few more drinks than I would normally do. But yeah, it's too warm today. I can't drink today.
When it comes to lockdown, if you haven't put on at least a stone, got an alcohol problem, a psychological condition, or look like you've been dragged through a hedge backwards, then you're not doing lockdown properly. And right. What can I say? I tick all of those boxes.
You're looking lovely tonight.
I've made a bit of an effort, you know, considering it's you folks.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Because that's a lockdown thing. Normally it's like I'm just slouching around in PJs all day.
Yeah, same here, normally.
If you've got a meeting, the smart top on, that's it, you know.
Right, let's crack straight into it then, dear, if you don't mind. Can you tell us about the diverse roles, models, and other projects or groups that you're working with?
Oh, I do so much, yeah. Yeah, so my name's Kate Hutchinson. I'm an activist, I would always sort of describe myself as. I work with a number of different charities. So, my main day job is I work for a charity called Diversity Role Models, and we're an LGBT education and anti-bullying charity. So we go into schools and we take role models in with us from the community who talk about their lives and their experiences. And we find that, you know, that connection, it builds up a lot of empathy from those young people, because they might not know a lot, or they might have a bit of disinformation going on, or some of those children might be somebody who's questioning, or they might be LGBT and they might be in the closet. And for them to see somebody who's like them, that's a really powerful thing sometimes. You can build up a lot of empathy and understanding.
Sorry to butt in, but do you mind telling us about that Twitter feed you posted out in 2018 that went viral?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. There was it's the only tweet I've ever had that went viral, to be honest.
So heartwarming.
Yeah, I'm also a youth worker, so I work for a charity called Viva LGBT up in North Wales, where I'm based. And you know, we're an LGBT youth charity. And one day I was on my way to Manchester for a meeting, and it was where was it? It was with the Proud Trust. It was like a bunch of LGBT organisations. So I'm on a train of a certain brand that don't have that franchise anymore, and we're just pulling into Manchester, and everybody's standing up, waiting to get out, and I'm just sat there because I'm thinking, I'm going to get off eventually. There's no big rush. And right next to the seat in the aisle where I'm sat, there's a family, and there's a young girl as part of that family who's looking at me, and she's giving me what in my trans head I get as the stare. You know, it's that curious stare. It's like they're looking a little bit too hard. I'm thinking, okay. So, you know what? A lot of times, I mean, I always think you've got to approach situations like that with a bit of compassion and a bit of humor, because I don't know anything about that young person. So I just smiled. I just went, hi, you know, like that. And then she said back to me, she said, oh, what was it now? It's so long ago. It was, that's it. She asked me if I was trans. She said, are you transgender? And her mum went, you can't ask that. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And I said, yeah, I am. And then she said, one of my friends at school is too. And what was it then? She said, and she's so much happier now, wasn't there? Or she's not, that's it. She made a really funny comment about she's not an angry or an unhappy boy anymore, something like that. And it was just, it was a lovely comment. And it was just like, oh my God.
So cute.
Got a tweet about that. And I tweeted it. And it's like, I got off, as soon as I'm just stepping off the train, my phone, my notifications are going ping, 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 ping. I think it was somebody at The Guardian picked up on it and then retweeted it, and it just went absolutely crazy. I was sat in this meeting in Manchester with my phone in the corner just buzzing away. Yeah, but it was lovely. It's you know, it was that thing, because in my mind I thought, am I being judged here? But I always approach it with, yeah, I could be making a mistake and misjudging her. So things like that have happened a lot. They normally happen to me a lot on trains, generally, because I travel a lot in my job.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, though, that the younger people of today, it just goes to show that the adults can actually learn so much from the younger generation these days, because they see everything through such fresh new eyes, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see really any. I mean, we see that in schools. We see, yeah, sometimes we go to a school where there might be more of a lack of understanding, but generally young people now, they get it, you know. It's just a case of sometimes they don't have all the information. And when we go into schools, we don't make any judgment of those young people in any way, because we don't know their background, we don't know their situation. So we treat every person we talk to, as somebody who's a clean slate and doesn't know anything about our community. So we're just talking about our lives, sharing our experiences. That's all, really.
And it's so great that you have an opportunity to go in and share your experiences and just share your story with people. So I'm a firm believer in sort of the younger you expose people to different experiences and new things, you know, I think more acceptance will form from that. Yeah. And more empathy, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I have a daughter, and the minute that she can talk, because she can't talk at the moment, but the minute she can talk, you know, we will have an open conversation, and just, I know she's going to ask loads of questions, and I think the more you can just say, well, you know, this is what happens. This is absolutely normal. We don't discriminate. We just, you know, we accept everybody for who they are. And if I can get that across to her and she lives her life like that, I will be proud.
This is it. You know, we're a diverse society. We're all different in some way, and we should be celebrating our differences more than using our differences to pick at people and attack different groups, because there's a lot of that going on at the moment. You know, you see that with lockdown. I mean, that's probably what powers a lot of my work, because when I was at school, there was no visibility. I never saw any visibility of anyone like me, or if I did, it was in the media or it was in a Sunday newspaper, and it was always a negative thing. So I think it's really important that, you know, LGBTQI plus visibility is out there, you know, and, you know, even outside of our community, it's just celebrating people for their difference. Difference makes the world go round, you know. That's why I do what I do with all the different organisations, and Pride is a massive part of that. I work with 2 Pride organisations, so I'm trans officer at Chester Pride and at Pride Cymru in Cardiff as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So this year, unfortunately, a lot of the Prides have cancelled. Are you doing anything in their place?
Yeah, I think, well, both Prides I work with are definitely doing some sort of digital, you know, alternative. I'm actually just writing it for Chester Pride at the moment, because we're going to, you know, I'm going to write a sort of trans-specific side of it because that's my role, you know, with that organisation. So it'll be something that can support the community local up there, and I'm sure it'll be the same with Pride Cymru, because you know they're currently looking at you know, what we're going to do with that. It is a real pity, but what can you do at the moment? We've got to be safe, and it is what it is.
Yes, that's true.
You're quite a diverse person, Kate, and I see that you're a bit of a rock chick. And I was wondering if you could tell us how music has shaped your life and who in the industry inspires you.
Wow. How long have you got? Okay.
You can carry on. I mean, I'm really interested on
there's an interesting there's an interesting time, because I did a talk. It's actually, if you look on YouTube, there's a talk that I did called Blurring the Lines is what I called the talk, and it was about a lot of queer and trans representation in rock music in particular. A bit of pop music in there too, but it was that thing of, we've always been here. Queer people have always been on the planet, you know. And I did a talk based around that, and it was around my own experiences. So myself as a kid, I grew up. There was always music in our house. I loved music from an early age. When I was a teenager, I started to learn guitar and different instruments. But you know, I would see people like me, or I think the first thing that really stuck out to me as a queer person on TV that I really noticed was Boy George on the TV in, was it 1981 or something like that? And I think it was Top of the Pops. It was a Thursday night. I'm sat there waiting for it to come on, as I always was. And apparently Shakin' Stevens, who was going to be on there, cancelled that night, and they ended up with Culture Club. And the minute George sort of appeared on there, my jaw hit the floor. It was just like, wow. And my mum and dad, the first phrase that came out of their mouth was, is that a boy or is that a girl? And I was like, don't care. They're fabulous. They're beyond amazing. And yet George isn't trans. George is a gay man. And the signal he sent out was the fact that he didn't care what anyone thought about him. He was being his genuine 100% self there. And I thought that was amazing. And for that you know, kid who was really quite questioning a lot of things at that time, that sent out a really positive sort of signal. And then I would see other people even just breaking gender stereotypes. There was a person called Jane County who I first heard around 1984. She was going by the name Wayne County then, even though she had this feminine presentation to the world. She was part of the Andy Warhol art scene. So originally she was part of, you know, she would refer to herself as a queen, you know, as even how she identified back then. She was in that group with Holly Woodlawn and all of those, you know, back at that time. And I heard her singing songs with lyrics about trans people in the mid-80s. And I was like, wow, okay. And then growing up, I still wouldn't tell anyone, obviously. I knew who I was. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this sort of genre of rock music now call it hair metal. So it was guys in bands, long hair, tons of makeup on, you know, very feminine clothing. And I thought, I could go with that. It's a way to hide in plain sight. And I did. And, you know, I wanted to make my career doing that. And I had a bloody good go at it, but it didn't come to anything. So I ended up then going into a service job for about 17 and a half years that I ended up hating, completely in the closet. You know, I tried to come out at one point, didn't happen in the mid 90s. Yeah, but music-wise, music's always been a huge positive influence. So my icons are people like David Bowie. So there's somebody who, again, he was a chameleon right through his life. He always left people guessing or left people thinking about, so who is he? What is he? What's this image about? What's that image about? You know, everything from Ziggy Stardust to the Thin White Duke to everything he did was amazing. He at one point he said he was gay, he said he was straight, he said he was bi. Nobody ever actually knew. He was definitely a queer person and part of the queer community, without a doubt, you know. But people like that, you know, visible icons, visibility again, it's a key thing, and that had a huge influence. But he's probably the biggest icon in my life as far as that goes.
He's a great icon to have.
Yeah, he's
as
amazing.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely fun. Oh, just so much about him. But there's so many others, and nowadays we're seeing more visibility of out queer people in the media and rock music as well, which is really good. And I'm still playing in bands occasionally, which is good, because that was scary too, first coming out, I suppose. Going on stage. Go on, sorry.
Sorry to chime in, but what do you play?
I play bass mostly in a band. I can play a bit of guitar, but you know, I'm not as good with that. If I can record stuff, I can sit down and play it and concentrate. But on stage, bass is my thing. The thing I really can't do is play drums. I can't do the four limbs doing separate things at the same time. My brain just won't go there. But yeah, I play bass mostly rock bands. I was once in a really quite strange jazz band that did covers of rock songs in a jazz style. Or pop songs. Yeah, we did like a country and western version of Madonna songs and stuff like that. It was just brilliant.
That's very different.
Yeah,
that sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, it's good fun. I miss doing that band. They were called the Singapore Slingbacks. They were fantastic.
Oh, it's a great name.
It is.
Singapore Slingbacks.
Yeah, we were all it was all glitter balls and you know, posh frocks, and we would have a tea tray on stage with us with a teapot and cakes on it was very civilized.
That's brilliant. Tammy, love, do you have any questions for the lovely Kate?
Yeah, you're a bit of a gamer as well, aren't you?
Yeah, massive gamer. Probably since I was that's normally gamer with a Y in it as well, GAYMER, because that's a term that a lot of people from the community use as part of that. So you see this sort of microphone here, because I do something called streaming as well. So I play games and I play them on the internet, and people watch you playing them on the internet and chat to you about it.
Fabulous.
Yeah, but I only did it for fun, but it's funny because it's sort of building up a little bit now, and it's turned out to be sort of part of what I do about visibility as well, about, you know, LGBT folks, because I'm part of a group of LGBT streamers, and we're like a small worldwide group called the Streamer Pride Network. You can find our website at streamerpride.network, and we do lots of fundraisers, things like that, for different causes. And we're all over the place. We got folks in Poland, in Luxembourg, in the US. And it's all about visibility and also encouraging others to, you know, to take part and to build others' confidence, to be that little bit of a, you know, that bit of visibility where somebody goes, oh, there's somebody like me, and they're not scared to be who they are, and they're out. You know, I'm not saying that everybody should, you know, it's not that thing about encouraging everybody must come out. People come out when they're ready, you know, it's that thing. But
I'm aware, but it's still wonderful that you've got that whole thing there as well. It's something that you're completely enjoying 100%. Yeah. And it's not just doing you the world of good, it's doing so many other people the world of good as well.
That's it. I mean,
you being there playing these video games that you enjoy playing, and doing the live stream, and people actually being able to sit there and witness it for themselves that aren't quite 100% sitting yet in their own heads. You're just what they need. You're that catalyst that will actually help them go, that's what's missing with me.
This can be it. I mean, I've mentioned this to a lot, and I always use this phrase to describe myself, that I am an idealistic old hippie, that I go into every day, I think, what can I do that's going to have a positive effect? And that sounds, yeah, right, you say that, but no, that's truly what I think about doing. And even with whatever piece of work I'm doing, if whatever I do, it makes one positive difference, maybe to one person, then hey, job done. It's good. It's a positive thing. I'm trying not to strangle myself with my headset here.
My husband is a gamer, so I know quite a lot about gaming. Mm-hmm. And my question for you is, it seems to be quite a male-dominated industry, the gaming industry. No, hang on, bear with me. I know there are a lot of females that do play and at top levels. But how, with you playing, how do you find it? How do people react to you when they play against you?
It's a really interesting point, actually. Good point to make, actually, because I can tell you a little bit about this. Funny enough, actually, when I compare what it was like to play games on the internet before I transitioned to where I am now, because I've got a low voice that testosterone gave me, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and hey, there was no sort of medical support really for young trans people, which is sort of why it's really important now. So way back when I was presented as male and I would play games, it would be, I would have no problems whatsoever. But now I don't tend to talk a lot on a microphone while I'm playing games, unless it's within a group of people I know really well, because I will get that abuse. I will get some horrendous abuse online, because it'll be like, are you a boy or are you a girl? And then they'll use transphobic slurs and all the rest of it. They use a phrase, and it's a horrible phrase called a trap. It's so you hear a lot of gamers saying it, and they use that to refer to trans people as if it's a deception, as if you're trapping somebody into some. It's a horrible phrase, but so I don't tend to use it a lot. I'm never actually afraid of saying I am who I am. So I think like one of my Xbox avatars, so some person could see it on the screen if it's not my photo, has got a huge trans flag of me, me riding a unicorn with trans flag coloured hair. So it's not like I ever hide it, but sometimes you can get that abuse. But also from a sexism point of view, so in games, I've got a gamer tag that marks me as female. The way people will speak to me, even though I don't speak to them back. So I'll give you an example. The other day I was playing this one particular game, and I'm not talking on mic, and I've made an avatar in the game. So the avatar sort of looks like me. It's got red hair. No, actually, it didn't. It had really, she had really short shaved sides hair and a bit of a Mohican. She looked amazing, really fierce. And in this game, I'm in like a train station bit, but there's another player in real life who comes up, and I think he was in the US, and he comes up, he goes, "Hey girl, looking good," and all this, and then started just going on about, I've been using quite sexual language, and I hadn't said anything back. And, then started remarking on the appearance of a computer avatar. I said, "You look like a boy with that haircut." I'm like, oh God. It's so interesting. Even in that digital space, people make assumptions and make all
Well, yes. And assumptions, it can be dangerous in that world, because I know for a fact that my husband always plays with female characters. He's never a male character. It's always a female, which has massive boobs. And I'm just like, I laugh at him, and I'm just like, really? Is that what you're after?
That's another thing, the whole depiction of female characters within gaming. And, within that whole culture as well, it has been traditionally very male dominated, and that is changing a lot now. Games companies are getting a little bit more aware of how they portray female characters, but also how they portray queer people within gaming. Like there's various games coming out recently where they've got trans gay characters as main characters in there. In some cases they're the leading characters. I mean, the
That's
Last
fantastic.
of Us, The Last of Us 2 just came out the other day, and the lead character on that she's either gay or bi girl, who's the main lead character in it. And I think there's a trans character in there too. But you're seeing that representation, and that's good, because it's not like we're trying to take over the world. We just want equal representation.
Yeah, no, it's important. At the minute,
I'm replaying my own. Oh, sorry, yeah. At the minute, I'm replaying my own Pokemon games.
Yeah, Pokemon games are fantastic. There is a stereotype of what people in the LGBT community play game-wise. There's lots of Final Fantasy and Japanese RPGs and Pokemon and Nintendo. There's huge amounts. But hey, I fall into that trap as well in that way. I've got my my Switch and lots of Pokemon games.
I tried Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was an interesting experience.
I bet.
I couldn't believe it.
There we go.
And I was listening to sort of, because obviously I'm wearing like a Turtle Bay headset, and I'm in there and I'm listening to everything, and I wasn't talking much. I wasn't talking much, but I could hear like the team speak was just comical.
Yeah.
Absolutely comical.
Oh, isn't it just? Yeah, I turn a lot of it off sometimes because I just go and play the game. Unless it, like I say, unless it's a game with folks I game with, so it might be I will game with a bunch of LGBT gamers, and that's brilliant. We'll all go and play. There's a game, Sea of Thieves, where you're pirates and you go and crew a ship. We'll all go and play that together, and we've got a rainbow flag on the mast of the ship, and it's just brilliant.
Is that a Sea of Thieves?
Yeah.
I played that with my husband. I could never get the chickens in the box.
But it's stuff like that. I just love it, and technology now, especially even within lockdown, it's been really good, because my partner, she lives about. So I live in North Wales, and she lives about 35, 40 miles away over the border in Stoke. So I haven't seen her since mid-March.
Quite a way then.
Yeah, but we use Xbox and technology to sort of keep in touch with each other. So we'll both sit there with headsets on. We'll both get Netflix on the TV at the same time. We'll press play on the same program, and we can chat to each other while we're watching Netflix. So we use things like that to technology-wise to stay sort of together. But yeah, so gaming and that sort of thing, and that's connected to it because I'm using a console.
I took your advice from your Facebook page, and I watched Disclosure today.
Oh, fantastic film.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
For all our viewers out there, I would highly recommend watching Disclosure, because it kind of...
Can you give us a quick clip note version?
Of what it is? Yeah, it's a film about...
Not to spoil it. No spoilers. No
spoilers, really, but it's a film about trans representation in the media through film, right from way back in the in the early 20th century, right up till now. And you've got a lot of people in there, like the cast of Pose are in there at various points. If you've seen that show, if you haven't seen that show, check it out on BBC iPlayer.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Well, a lot about the ballroom scene in New York in the 80s. A lot about trans women of color. There's Laverne Cox off Orange is the New Black. She's in this film. It's just great, but it's amazing. It's quite heart-rending at times, some of the experiences they're talking about, and also little bits I sort of identify with what they're coming out with, and you think, oh yeah, I've been in that situation.
But it was so informative and educational for someone who isn't trans, to sort of say, these kind of questions are not acceptable. You shouldn't. And I thought it was fantastically put together. Really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost a spoiler. I'm going to try not to, but there was an incident with Katie Couric, who was a TV, chat show host in the States, and she had Carmen Carrera on there, and she started to ask Carmen Carrera about, what's between her legs and questions like that, and Carmen Carrera said, no, I'm not going to tell you that. And then she seemed a bit put out that she couldn't get that answer. And then Laverne Cox came on right after her and basically backed her up as well and said, damn right, girl, you don't go telling her that because it's none of her business.
No, because she tried the same question with Laverne, and I thought,
yeah,
I couldn't believe she asked it to begin with. So post-operational questions, it's really, that's so private and personal.
Yeah, you get it. I get it. I've had that so many times. It's goes like that over my head, but it's incredibly rude, and especially if it's somebody sort of early in transition and they're getting all these questions about their identity, it can be jarring. It can make you not even want to go out your door sometimes, you know. I mean, it's 8 years since I transitioned, and I've probably grown a bit of an armor, you could say, but the fact is I shouldn't have to. You know, it's
exactly.
But you know, it's that case. It can have real consequences. I mean, when I do a lot of my work in schools, sometimes I'll get those questions asked from young people, and I'm not going to make a judgment of them in that case, but I will tell them why it can be an inappropriate question. So I will educate on it, and I won't jump down somebody's throat about it. I will say, you know what, it's not the most skillful thing you can ask. You know, would you ask that of your friend sat next to you? Probably not. So why are you asking it of me? So yeah, it's just trying to educate. I generally won't, you know, start finger waving at people. I want people to learn to understand rather than feel bad about getting something wrong. It's the same when somebody gets pronouns wrong. You know, it doesn't happen as much these days, but you know, if somebody used to call me he instead of she, it can really hurt. But if you ever do that, don't make a big thing out of it either. Because yeah, that person might feel hurt for a little bit of time. But the worst thing that ever happened to me, I think, early on, is somebody got it wrong and they made this huge thing about it. They went, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," and they were like arms everywhere like this, and their voice went right up, and everybody around started looking at them, and I'm like, "Oh God, now you're drawing attention onto me. I don't want that attention. Just say sorry and just move on." You know, so if you say, "Oh, sorry, I mean she." That's all you need to do. Just say that and carry on with the conversation. You don't really need to make a big thing out of it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I try my hardest. It's happened once or twice with me and one of my friends that I've known since I was growing up. She's one of the most beautiful people that I know. And when we were growing up together, I remembered that person from back then. And there were a couple of times throughout her transition that I did fluff up a little bit, but as you said, it's about not making a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I've always known she wasn't meant to be the person that she initially was, and I've always known that she's had a journey ahead of her. But there were also those odd times where I did slip up and say he instead of her, and yeah, it can happen. I appreciate that she appreciated that.
Right. Even trans people do it. I've done it before now. And, you know, I just apologize and carry on. So maybe there's somebody who identifies as non-binary and uses they, and I've accidentally used a pronoun that is sort of attached to stereotypes of how they look. And then I just apologize and get on with it. And they understand, because we know when somebody's generally set out to offend us rather than actually just making a simple mistake.
I mean, she's one of the most stunning people I know.
Sorry?
The people that you're talking about, they keep doing it. So they won't change. You know, people who slip up and go, "Ooh," you know, and then change from there onwards. It's the ones who persistently keep repeating it. They're the ones that, you know. And
very, very sad.
On that point, that when you're teaching people sort of in the school stuff to say or not to say, for our viewers who are watching today, can you signpost them to good sort of educational websites on trans life? You know, some people might think, "Oh, I don't know what I can and can't say, and I would like to know." Are there places where people can go and educate themselves on it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing, because quite often we are called on to educate all the time. It's people ask us directly. And to be honest, if you're in a situation with somebody and you're not sure, ask that person. You know, if you're having a conversation with a trans person and you're not sure what to call them, ask them. Simple as that. But websites and organizations like that, there's quite a few out there for young people, for sort of young trans people. There's an organization called Mermaids. You can check them out. They're fantastic about youth support. There's another one called Gendered Intelligence as well. They do similar things. They've done some work in South Wales. Well, they've done some work for Wales, but they're London based. All About Trans are a great organisation I volunteer with, and now they do a lot of stuff around trans representation in the media. So they've done stuff with the BBC, all sorts of, you know, different organisations. Hollyoaks, they work with Hollyoaks to get, you know, there's a trans character. Annie Wallace plays on Hollyoaks as well. They're a good organisation to check out. Who else can I think of? All About Trans. Wipe Out Transphobia as well. You can check our social media on Facebook and on Twitter. It's at White Transphobia on Twitter. So many. DiversityRoleModels.org, who I work for.
Fantastic.
There's a lot, you
That
know.
should have been first.
If you're in Cardiff as well, and you're looking for a social group within Cardiff or in South Wales generally, because it's more of a South Wales group, there's TSMU on. If you look on Facebook, now that's a social group on Facebook there, and it is a closed group, so people will check your profile to see that they think you're part of the, you know, community before they'll accept you into the group. But that's a really good sort of peer support group within, you know, within South Wales.
And sort of at the moment, there's been a lot of noise from the government recently to do with trans rights. Is there anything that you would like to say to Boris Johnson and Liz Truss?
Oh, there's a lot. And I want to be polite. Yeah. I mean, at the moment, 2004, they had a piece of legislation called the Gender Recognition Act, which gives trans people a few legal rights to get their identity legally recognised. So you can get a birth certificate that says you are male or female. They don't give any option for non-binary people, unfortunately. But to get one of these certificates, so you can change your birth certificate, and that's all it does. It just changes your birth certificate. You have to go through an incredibly dehumanizing process to get one. You have to provide all this evidence to say you are who you are, and you have to get medical professionals to sign off in, and then you get judged by a panel of people you'll never meet on whether you're trans enough, maybe is a way to put it, and fit into their boxes enough. So they're basing you on gender stereotypes, and a lot of people, it takes them 3-4 goes to get this, even though, you know, they might be, as far as they're concerned, finished with their transition. They might be where they want to be, and that can be quite negative, as in it tells you, yeah, you're not real, we don't believe you. And it costs a lot of money, and for a lot of people, a lot of trans people, we face higher rates of unemployment. It's harder to get a job if you're trans. We know that for a fact, because of rates of discrimination, even though there is stuff that protects us. So at the moment, we're worried that, from what Liz Truss said, that they might even take rights back off trans people. They might try and exclude people like me from using a female toilet. Can you imagine the hassle I might get if I have to walk into a men's toilet? I will feel unsafe. There might be the chance I get attacked. The thing is, as well, they haven't thought about with that as well. You're going to get trans guys then who will have to go into, you know, female toilets. And if you've got a trans guy who's like 6 foot tall with a beard, built like a, you know, like this, is that going to make women feel safe? Because you've got a man in a female toilet. So the way they think they're doing it, they think they want to exclude trans women out of female toilets because trans women are women and trans men are men. They're actually going to create a situation which is strange the other way around, because you're framing every trans person as a sexual predator for a start, which is wrong. Trans people...
It's not going to happen either.
No. If somebody wants to cause sexual violence to another person, they will just do it. They won't get dressed up as another gender to walk into a toilet to do it. They will just do it.
They won't. And also the hormones that you're on as well, that kind of sees to that it's not going to happen, because everything starts to change, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some trans people don't have any medical intervention. That's fine, because sometimes they can't, just because of medical reasons. But yeah, people forget about things like that as well. You know, if hormone treatment does a lot, you know, it takes a lot of time to work, but it's life changing as well. And I'm so grateful for the NHS and the fact that in this country we have an amazing health service that are really pushed at this time. I wouldn't be where I am now, probably with my life and happy if it wasn't for that support from the NHS, you know, because for me, hormone treatment was life changing. Hormone treatment changed so much for me. You know, I went from looking in the mirror and hating what I saw and seeing this what I thought was somebody who was overweight, out of shape guy I would see in the mirror, to seeing somebody who was still out of shape and overweight, but the right shape of overweight. To me, you know, a bit more curvy and the sort of I saw
voluptuous.
Yeah, you know what?
No woman is out of shape and overweight. She's curvy and voluptuous.
Absolutely. I just, you know, I've got so much more better body image for it because, yeah, you know, I've been suicidal. I dealt with depression and anxiety all of my life, but I'm in a much more happier place now because I've had that support. And I think it's really important we continue to have that support. So, you know, Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, I think they need to think about how we support people in our culture. They can't make a minority group like ourselves into some sort of culture war token that they're bouncing between political parties. Luckily, we've seen every political party has actually kicked back against Liz Truss's statement, because she's also talking about withdrawing help for young trans people. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. So for young trans people at the moment, if you're below the age of 16, you don't get hormone treatment. And you don't get surgery. No person under 18 gets surgery. That's a complete myth. It's absolute hogwash. A young person from the age of 12, possibly, if they have actually started to go into puberty and they're showing levels of distress because of that, they may be prescribed hormone blockers, which are a thing that puts puberty on hold. It's like pressing the pause button. And it's something that's been used for many, many years, in the 70s and 80s, for something that's called precocious puberty, which is when puberty might kick in at like 5 or 6 at really, really young ages. So it's something that's been used for many years. It wasn't what those drugs were intended for. They were intended mostly as anti-cancer drugs, but they have that, you know, that positive effect for young people. And the young people are monitored all of the time, so there's so much misinformation around that. At 16, that young person possibly, and after evaluation and everything else, and if they want it, they might be able to get cross hormone treatment. So for somebody who was assigned female at birth, if they wanted testosterone to maybe, you know, drop their voice, to give them a beard and that sort of thing. That's a fantastic beard you're sporting today, I really have to say.
Thank you.
And, you know, for trans girls, the opposite, they can get estrogen at that age, but there's a massive process. It's not like you just go to your doctor and say, today I want to be a boy, can I have some tablets for it? And the doctor says, yeah, there you go. Doesn't happen.
No, I think the problem is lack of education.
Again,
is that people don't, you know, people fly off the handle and presume things so quickly, don't give other people, you know, they don't find out exactly what is happening. They'll just surmise and go, oh, well, no, you can't do that. And it's like,
it's exactly that. I mean, I think that's why I do what I do. It's all about education. We need to keep on educating. So I do other work for another charity called Schools Out, and one of our sort of little taglines is about educating out prejudice, getting rid of that prejudice by increasing people's understanding of it, you know. And that's
so
a great
important.
organisation. Yeah.
So, Kate, is there anything that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Again, this is me being idealistic hippie thing. It's about judging people. It's about not judging people, I suppose. I said it earlier on. Every last one of us on this planet, we've got a difference. Whether that's your height, your gender, the colour of your eyes, lots of different things. We shouldn't be using any of those differences to make another person feel bad. We shouldn't be pulling somebody apart for their differences. What we should do is celebrate those differences, because the fact that we're all individuals, that's amazing. That's brilliant. That's what makes the world go round. The differences between us, sometimes our different opinions, you know, they help things progress. So accept people for who they are, celebrate the fact that we are all different, but also be kind, be compassionate, think about sometimes you might start to say something where you might be making fun of somebody, and you've got to think, is that going to hurt that person? Jokes are fine, but when what you say might hurt another person, just try and be a little bit more mindful about what we think. Just be kind. That's it.
I'll drink to that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Rhondda Pride TV, Kate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than
Thank you for coming.
And hopefully we'll get to meet face to face at the next Pride.
Here's hoping.
Wonderful.
Yeah, bring it on.
Well, and enjoy the rest of your lockdown.
You too. Take care, both. Fantastic.
And you. Thank you
so much. Love you long time. Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Well, thank you to Kate Hutchinson. Wasn't she great? A real role model for young people out there today. Now, we're lucky to have a musical performance from the one, the only, it's Zoey Allen.
Hello, this is Zoe from Our Transitional Life, and I have been asked by Rhondda Pride TV to sing you a little song. So here I am, singing a song. And this song is called In Love With You. Standing in the pouring rain, waiting for a bus to come take me home. Freezing cold and numb again, I'm thinking back on everything and all we've been through. But I've been waiting for hours, and it feels like weeks. Will I ever make it home? Well, I don't know. Stepping through the broken glass reminds me of pieces of my heart. smiles and having laughs with all of you. I close my eyes upon your lap, your fingers running through my hair, right where I belong. And as I fall asleep, you're right there in my dreams, as you were all alone. Yeah, 'cause you are the one. You've been waiting for me to come home. Oh, yeah, you make me complete. You make me completely fall in love with you. Yeah, you've been waiting for me to come home. I am made me complete. You made me completely fall in love with you. Oh, in love with you. Yeah. In love with you. Whoa. In love with you. In love with you. Thank you very much. Don't forget to check us out, Our Transitional Life, and all that. And have a fantastic Pride. And Happy New Year. And all the other crazy stuff. Thanks, Rhondda Pride TV. See you soon. Bye.
A big thank you to Kate Hutchinson and Zoey Allen for tonight's episodes. Weren't they fantastic? We hope you enjoyed it. On a serious note though, right now trans lives are actively threatened by the current government. We ask everyone to please support our trans and non-binary friends by emailing your MP, or alternatively email Liz Truss, the Equalities Minister. Come and protest and hashtag everything with hashtag trans rights are human rights. Right now, our support is needed more than ever. It wouldn't be LGBTQ plus without the T. I've been Tammy Paxton. He's been minus the Kock. Till next time.